Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back. And so today's video, I just wanted to kind of just have some fun. And I've been using the Nothing Phone 1 and the iPhone 12 side by side in my pocket every day, daily carry. And I wanted to give you guys my thoughts between both of these devices. They are older, and so for those who are like asking, like, why are you reviewing older phones? Well, older flagships, old mid-rangers, and dumb phones are becoming the rage. There are a lot more people that are interested in maybe going for something a bit older if it's able to handle the things that they would normally do day to day on their smartphone. And so that's why I review these things, to give people some insight in case they're interested in the phone that I currently own, possess, and able to use. So that's the reason to answer that question. But before I get into this whole thing with the Nothing Phone 1 and the iPhone 12, I just want to say to you guys, if you guys could give me a solid smash the like button, because it does help my videos get discovered. I would really appreciate it. It only takes a couple of seconds, as well as turning on bell notifications so you don't miss a video upload or when I go live. So on that note, welcome. Glad to be here. I got my iPhone 12 right in front of me for reference, and I got the Nothing Phone 1 for reference. So these are some pretty cool and pretty solid devices. They are devices that I can recommend. It just really kind of just depends on what you're looking for a smartphone. But other than that, I'm gonna give you guys just basically my experience with both of these phones. They're great. I like them. I like both of these phones. And so Pixel is not in rotation, so no Pixel influence. But anyways, for those who are absolutely interested in the specs, so I'll go over them really quickly. So for those who want to know, the Nothing Phone 1 came out in 2022 of July, and the iPhone came out in October of 2020. So the Nothing Phone 1 being 2 years younger than the iPhone 12. With the processing chip, you got a Snapdragon 778G Plus, which is a 6nm built processor from Qualcomm. You got the A14 Bionic chip from Apple, which is a 5nm processor. The CPU basically being an octa-core processor on the Nothing Phone 1 and a hexa-core on the iPhone 12. You got a 6.5-inch display on the Nothing Phone 1 and a 6.1-inch display on the iPhone 12. Resolution for the Nothing Phone 1 is 1080 by 2400 at a 20:9 aspect ratio, with the iPhone 12 being 1170 by 2532 at a 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio. Nothing Phone 1's got Corning Gorilla Glass 5 ceramic shield on the iPhone 12. We have, mine's is a 256 by 8 gigabytes of RAM variant of Nothing Phone 1, and then my iPhone 12 is a 128 by 4 gigabytes of RAM. For the camera sensors, it's a 50 megapixel shooter, which is a main shooter for the Nothing Phone 1, and a 50 megapixel ultra wide. And on the iPhone, it's a 12 megapixel main shooter with a 12 megapixel ultra wide shooter. Both can record in 4K, however, 30 frames per second only on a Nothing Phone 1. And both, 1080p wise, can do 30 and 60 frames per second. A selfie cam on the Nothing Phone 1 is a 16 megapixel, and it can only record in 1080p at 30 frames per second. While as on the iPhone, you have a 12 megapixel selfie shooter that can record in 4K and in 1080p, 30 and 60 frames per second, and even 120 frames per second on the 1080p side. So with that, they're both 5G capable. Yeah, 4500 milliamp hour battery on a Nothing Phone 1, 2815 on the iPhone 12. You got a faster charging on the Nothing Phone 1 with the 33 watt wire charging. I think it's like what with the adapter you get with the iPhone 12, it's like a 5 watt charger. So 5 watts wireless charging is happening there. With wireless charging, 15 watt wireless charging on the Nothing Phone 1, and 15 watt wireless charging, whether MagSafe or Qi 2, on the iPhone 12. So that's pretty much it on that when it comes to spec wise with both of these devices. Now, experience wise, again, these are two different operating systems, but they both do the exact same thing. Okay, so I'm just gonna be very blunt with everybody. They both open apps and you use the apps on them. Now, I can see in the past that a lot of, like Meta and Twitter and Snapchat and all that, they really kind of catered more towards iPhone and iOS because obviously, it was like, one software type to pretty much develop for every year, right? Like on the Android side, you had vanilla Android, you had TouchWiz, you had the HTC UX, you had Moto Blur, you had a lot of different variants of Android, right? So like Android with skins on top of them from the OEMs. And so I guess they kind of felt overwhelmed of having to try to develop an app and make sure that it functions properly on all these different types of Android versus just dealing with, iOS. So yeah, it used to be like that, but it's not like that anymore now. It seems like, a lot of these apps favor Android more, and it just seems like that, features and stuff like that are coming later to iPhones on iOS. So when it comes down to just like, app usage and stuff like that, they're on par with each other. There's not really like a huge, big difference between them, I would say. There really isn't. And that's, literally, that's just because, times have progressed, right? The battle is no longer really about app functionality or, features, customizations, quirky body builds. It's about AI now, right? So everything's basically on the software side and about AI. So with that being said, I would say that about using apps on these two devices. When it comes to audio quality, the Nothing Phone 1, in my opinion, actually takes it over the iPhone 12. The Nothing Phone 1's audios is not up there with some of my favorite ones, like the Pixel 4 XL or the Pixel 8a. I think the audios off of those are a lot cleaner and better sounding. But the Nothing Phone 1 does produce pretty good audios, whether you're listening to music, or you're watching video content, or even on speakerphone. Whereas on the iPhone 12, it's a bit more flatter. They both can get loud enough where you can hear from it, but the iPhone just seems a little bit more flatter in my opinion. And so with that, I give audio to the Nothing Phone 1, so over the iPhone 12, basically, when it comes to audios. When it comes to the display, like colors, how vibrant they are and everything like that, the iPhone seems to be a little bit better in my opinion when it comes to the display, the color representations, and what you see. Of course, also judging in that book is responsiveness, and there's times where I have missed touches on my Nothing Phone 1. I'll tap an app, it won't launch. I'll tap it again, it'll launch. And I don't have that problem on the iPhone 12. When I tap Facebook, it launches. When I tap X, it launches. Or if I tap Threads, whatever app I'm going to, it launches. So as far as, the responsiveness of the display, I give it up to the iPhone 12. However, when it comes to the display refresh rate that some of you guys absolutely care about, then I guess the Nothing Phone 1 would take that cake because it does have 120 hertz refresh rate compared to the iPhone 12 that only has 60, so half of that. Just being honest with everybody there, so don't get all upset if you're an Apple fan, okay? Size is also another thing too. Like the Nothing Phone 1 is on the larger side of things, 6.5-inch display, so the body of it is a lot bigger than what it is on the iPhone 12. But it doesn't feel like it's not overbearing to hold for long periods of time. It's not a heavy phone, so I don't get lag on my hand from holding the smartphone at all whatsoever. And the same can be said for the iPhone 12. But the iPhone 12 is a compact phone that when you are using it, because you're focused on the display, you are immersed in it, you're not really, all too concerned that it's a very compact phone, and sometimes you forget that it is until you're like maneuvering the phone in your hand and you realize how small of a phone it is. So on that notion, when it comes to being compact and nice size for one-handed control, the iPhone 12 I would definitely recommend on that. The Nothing Phone 1 can be controlled one-handed, but as far as like navigating the display, you'll definitely need both hands for that, or you'll be doing the phone shuffling up, shuffling down on your hand just to reach certain areas of the display. So yeah, I would say on that, on portability and one-handedness, iPhone 12, you pretty much gets it on that. So with the cameras and photos, I will have a separate video on my photography channel because I am also doing a camera comparison between the Nothing Phone 1 and the iPhone 12. So if you guys want that video will come probably this weekend. You guys will get to see that. So subscribe to the photography channel. I'll put the link in the description, and you guys can check out that video when it drops and see some comparisons, video and photo wise. But I think honestly they do pretty good. I give it more to the Nothing Phone 1, and I know some people will be like, well, the iPhone 12 does take pretty crisp photos, and it does. But the Nothing Phone 1 does have additional things that the iPhone 12's cameras doesn't. A pro mode, or in this fact, what Nothing calls the expert mode, allows me to really just kind of mess with a lot of the settings to achieve a photo that I really want, and kind of really, you know, mess with the shadows, the color grade, the brightness, the focus speed, the shutter speed, all that. I can control that with the Nothing Phone 1, and on the iPhone 12, you just got point and shoot. That's all you really got. So on that notion, I do give it to the Nothing Phone 1 over the iPhone 12. But, you know, overall experience, I don't game on my phone, so I'm not going to give you guys which phone is good for gaming. I just don't. I mean, no one really counts Pokemon Go as an aggressive game to kind of show you guys how well the performance is on the phone, so I'm not even going to go there with that. But I'll say that both of them can run Pokemon Go, so I'm happy. But there are great options to grab, especially now. I've seen some places where the Nothing Phone 1 is still going for like $490. So man, that's crazy how it's priced at that. And the same can be said for the iPhone 12 with a higher storage capacity. However, I have seen the iPhone 12 listed used for like $200. And I had found a Nothing Phone 1, the one that I got, for way less than what I'm finding them on the market for. So if you do your search, you can find these devices at a reasonable price. If you're interested in them. So yeah, anyways, that's just my thoughts, my opinions about the Nothing Phone 1 and the iPhone 12. If you guys have any other questions that you guys may be interested in, definitely drop them in the comments and I'll respond to them there. You know, but other than that, thanks for checking out today's video, and I'll talk to you on the next one.